It's 7 o'clock. I'll call this session of council to order, and we'll begin with the roll call by the clerk.
Reed Allen. Shirley Pineo. Randall Matheson. Tom Brown. Here. Gary Cochran. Here. Richard Daphne.
Present.
Jennifer Daniels. Robbie Zwicker. Paul Morton.
Present.
Thank you, Rhonda. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. And before we begin, we have two doors in front of me, besides you people. And if the fire alarm goes off, please exit those doors. And we'll end up over on my left-hand side. And there's a sign out there that says muster station. And until the fire alarm is done, please gather there. And the last person leaving the building, would they please check the washrooms and make sure nobody's left in the building? And I think that's supposed to be me. I go down with the ship. So anyway, that's the announcements. The only other announcement, I have a situation going on. And if I have to leave, I'm laying my phone here. If I have to leave, the deputy warden will take over. Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda, including any additions or deletions. And our CAO has already, under miscellaneous or new business, asked to have a fly pass in the community of Hants added. So that would be 14A. Are there any other additions?
Yeah, could I put the PR? Remember I had that the other day. I think I'll bring that up.
PR 14B?
Yep.
Any other additions? Any deletions? Randy, your mic's still on. If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda.
That's what I was leaving it around for. I will move that the agenda be approved.
Moved by Councillor Matheson, second by Councillor Pineo. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have the person that won our last election, Paul Morton, and he'll be given the oath of office. And I'll ask Rhonda to come forward and do that. And then I'll welcome you, Paul.
I, Paul Morton, swear
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II,
Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II,
her heirs and successors, according to law, and that I am duly qualified as required by law for the office of Councillor of the Municipality of the District of West Hants, and that I will truly, faithfully and impartially execute the duties of the office to which I have been elected to the best of my knowledge and ability, and that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of any impartiality or other undue execution of the duties of my office.
Thank you, Rhonda, and welcome, Paul. Councillor Morton. Councillor Morton, do you know everyone around the table? Okay, so no introductions needed. And staff, I believe you've met already, earlier. Anyway, welcome, and we'll get on with our meeting. And don't cause too much trouble the first night. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is public hearings. We have no public hearings this evening. Next is the approval of the council minutes of August 11, 2015, and special council minutes of August 18, 2015. What's your wishes of those minutes?
Move the minutes be approved as circulated, noting any errors or omissions.
Moved by Councillor Pinion. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. Are there any errors or omissions in either of those minutes to be noted? If not, I'll call for the question. Question's been called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Business arising from the minutes and any related correspondence. I think everything's covered on our agenda. Next, we have a presentation this evening on regional fire services by our MLA for Hants West, Chuck Porter. Welcome, Chuck, and please come up and have a seat, make yourself comfortable, and I'm sure you know how the mic works. Just push when the red light comes on, and
there we go.
Thank you for coming in, and I'll turn it over to you, Chuck.
Thank you very much, Warden, and to your council for giving me a few minutes this evening to speak briefly on the fire service. I don't need to go into details of what's transpired to date. Everyone is more than well aware of that. But in the past couple of weeks, as you know, we've been talking on behalf of the people that have contacted me. Many hundreds of people have actually contacted me and asked if there was anything that could be done as we move forward. And, of course, there's been a variety of things come out since then with regards to this whole thing. And you've made a decision as to the direction that this table chose and chooses to go in the future. So one of the big things that I've been trying to get my head around in the last week or so has been, how do we do that together? And I guess I come tonight to propose an idea in hopes that it's something that could work. You have, from my understanding at least, and please correct me if I'm wrong here on any point, but you have all of the other fire departments that you continue to work with, Hantsport and your border departments in Somerville and Brooklyn, and that's all a good thing. And if we're going to move more towards, I guess, what we would call a regional or a district model, and maybe at some point we'll end up calling it a regional model of fire service for the entirety of West Hants, Windsor, and Hantsport combined, and that's where you're going, I would ask that this council strongly consider inviting Windsor Fire Department back to this table to be part of that discussion moving forward. It would be very difficult, in my opinion, to have them sitting on the outside looking in here. They're right in the heart, right in the middle of all of this. When we think about all those volunteers who want to give their time, I know a lot of them. I spoke with a number of them, and I was one of them at one point in time some years back. And some of you around this table are closely associated with fire departments and sons and daughters and the like who might be members. But I would strongly ask you to consider there's nothing for you to lose in this. You're managing the situation as you go forward. But in my own opinion, it would be nice to have all fire departments at the table to offer you input and whatever else they have to try to build a relationship that has obviously been broken, unfortunately, along the way. We have to start somewhere, reinvest in everything that we have. Some may think that can't happen. I believe that it can happen. And again, as I said, you have nothing to lose. You're managing everything. What would it hurt to ask the Windsor Fire Department back to the table? That's really what I'm here to present this evening. And in an effort, I think as a community, we've seen communities pitted against one another, families, fire departments, friends. The debate just has gone on and on and on. And I'd like to think we're stronger than that. As a community together, we would be much stronger. We've got a lot to offer. We are in a really great place geographically in this province when we think about the proximity to Halifax and what could be. There are some other great projects that are on the go, as you and others know, that we've been trying to make happen. What we need is something positive here, and in my opinion, something positive would be asking them back to the table, asking for their input, allowing them to be part of that regional model that we're moving toward. And I guess that's really all I wanted to propose this evening, and I would ask that you, Warden, and your members of council even pass a motion this evening to that effect, perhaps having your administration write to the fire service and ask them to come back and be part of that discussion as we go forward for the better of all of our residents. After all, that is who we are at this table and my table and every table for. Provincially, it really doesn't have much to do with me, and it has everything to do with me. As you know, I've talked to you and I've talked to others about how I've been asked to step in to try and do something. And we've been trying to figure out what is the right step to take. Bringing it back together would be something positive if we could all do that. And again, as I said, I believe together we could be a lot stronger. We could put together a firefighting force that we haven't seen. Maybe it looks different than what it has and what it does today. People are often afraid of change to some degree. There's a lot of anxiety around this. They have every right to be afraid. This is fire protection. It's a serious issue, and I think that everybody probably agrees with that. But I think we have an opportunity to still work together. I'd hate to see it all end without an attempt to offer that department, who has a lot to offer, in my opinion, back to this table, to put our differences aside and to, as I said, that's really what I'm here for this evening. And I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I would be happy to answer a couple of questions if someone has any or not. It's up to you.
Thank you, MLA Porter. And this is recorded, so do you have anything written that you'd like receive, that we can receive your message
didn't.
anyway?
I can forward you something if you like by way of that. I just actually made a few notes for myself and a couple of points I wanted to hit on. And I did scratch out, actually, to be honest with you, in this document, and I can leave it with you, Warden, if you like, was the actual motion that I was suggesting be put forward. If you wanted to look at that in the wording and whatever you feel is necessary.
The Secretary would have it all on tape anyway, and it'll be in the minutes. So if I could have a motion to receive the MLA's report, that would be appreciated.
Happy to do that.
Moved by Councillor Swicker. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. Any discussion on all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Open the floor for questions. I know the MLA has to be in another place also, so that's the life we live. I'm going to turn it over first for, if you wouldn't mind, Randy, just to our CAO, because she was one that we stepped back from this and let fresh eyes go on this. We weren't involved in this and knew as much as anybody else through this whole thing, whether it be rumors or whatever. So I'm just going to let her respond first.
Thank you, Warden Daphne. I just wanted to remind Council that I've spoken on a number of occasions about the concept of creating what I call a fire service policy under the MGA, and that would still be my intent, is to work with our fire departments, both our primary responders specifically, to come up with a collaborative and agreeable fire service policy, which speaks to a number of things such as level of response, type of response, automatic call-out as a protocol, things like that. I think we're well on our way to, with those that we currently are providing service and have agreed, to move towards a fire service policy that would be adopted by Council, would become our overarching guideline on how our relationship would work with our fire departments, specifically financial information, reporting, a lot of the things that we're doing now, but we would put them into a more formal document. When it comes to mutual aid, I think it's fair for us to ask for their input into what we've designed, but it's our primary responders that we're most concerned about. So my approach would be sometime after January 2016 to put together a draft document and circulate it to the fire departments for their feedback. Now, I've had this conversation with the other fire departments. With all of them, actually. I've spoken with them about, my desire and your support in this. And so I see a fire service policy as being our first step. Where that might lead in the future is unknown. But certainly we do need some formal documentation that provides the framework for our relationship. So that was just a reminder of what I had already committed to do with you.
Morgan, can I just ask a question, just a bit of clarity on that?
Sure.
Thank you very much, and to the CAO, thank you. Does it, just for clarity on the fire service policy and those fire departments you're referring to, does that in fact include the Town of Windsor Fire Service?
Well, insofar as the Town of Windsor is going to provide mutual aid, I would offer them the same input I would offer to the other mutual aid fire departments that we have.
Okay, Councillor Masson, check your light's still on there.
And that was going to be my point. We already have mutual aid agreements, and they would be respected. And I think the Windsor Fire Department has told us that they would respect that, and I'm sure that our fire departments in our area respect that. And as time goes on, there will be agreements made. Brooklyn and Uniac has an agreement. Brooklyn said, look, we can get to South Rawdon Road quicker than you can. So we'll take that over from you. If you'll take over this part of Highway 1, which is in our district, that we can't get to very fast. And I'm sure in time that's something the chiefs will, on their own, decide. And you've always tripped over yourself, Mr. Chairman, trying to make this understood that we appreciate the volunteers, right? And we appreciate the Windsor volunteers. But remember this, the Windsor Fire Department executive unilaterally withdrew service. Okay? So that's happening on the 23rd. I think it's the 23rd. 23rd. Unilaterally withdrew service. That wasn't something that the CAO asked for, or that you asked for, or that we asked for. They unilaterally decided to do that. And I don't know why they did it, but my instinct tells me they did it to bring us to our knees, so that, in fact, we wouldn't be able to adopt a fire service of our own. So I hope time heals, but what you're asking us to do is to invite the Windsor Fire Department back to the table, a group that is actively trying to sabotage our efforts. And it's like inviting Al-Qaeda to an anti-terrorist task force. You know, it's just they are trying to sabotage. That's what they're doing it for. That's why they're withdrawing service. And you know, they've withdrawn the service because there's a dispute with us. But they're putting the residents, they're using them as pawns, because it's the residents that suffer because there's a dispute between a disagreement between council and the Windsor Fire Department. So I think you're at the wrong meeting. I think you should be at the Windsor Fire Department asking them, why are you withdrawing service? Why are you withdrawing the service? You're hurting the people that you're supposed to be protecting. And I think that's important. You could ask why they wouldn't accept the mediators' recommendations as we did. Why they refused to release the mediators' report. Why we can't see their books. You know, these type of things that I would like to see you ask of them, because they have, they have that part to play in it. It's hard for us. Look, I think time will heal this. Over time, faces will change and things will change. But right now is probably not the time to do this. And I think, you could be at the town office to ask them why they weren't at the mediation table. They were invited to the table, as you know. Why weren't they at the table? And I think this is the type of thing that has to be answered before we do this. I personally think we have to proceed the way we're doing it. And in time, the fire chiefs will work it out. As we say, we've got our mutual aid, and we've got all these things going for us. But there are things, as you know, that we have concern with the finances. And I think, from my perspective, as a municipal council and as your constituent, I could probably ask of you, maybe you should go to the minister and ask them, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and ask them to come back and do a forensic audit of the Windsor Fire Department, because there's all kinds of questions that we're not privy to. I mean, the $1 million figures we bounced around, but we don't know that. We don't know what the score is, and we'd like to know. And maybe you could help us in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Madsen, CAO.
I just have one question, if I could, to Mr. Porter, and that's just to clarify. When you speak about asking the Windsor Fire Department back to the table, you are not talking about asking them back to the table to renegotiate a primary responder contract. You are asking for us to consider inviting them back to the table as a member of the fire department that serves this area. Is that correct?
I guess what I'm thinking about is you've got every other department at the table, including your border departments, and the inclusion there would be important to me, regardless of what's happened in the past. This is about moving forward in a positive light and protecting those very residents that the council just spoke of. Are there still lots of details to work out? Yes, no doubt there is, and it will be a long, long time. Perhaps, Randy talked about healing. Maybe for some, maybe there won't be any. I'd like to think there will be. But today, the concern is, you talked about January, Ms. Osborne, as an example. But on October 23rd, that's a key date where Windsor will withdraw their services. Mm-hmm. You are planning right now, however, moving forward on something new, and I guess I was looking to see whether or not we could bring that back to try and be part of something more positive, which in turn may turn into something along a better agreement somewhere down the road as you proceed with the regional type service. District service, I know you don't like that word, regional, whatever you want to call it, but I just don't see how we can move forward, regardless of the issues we've had, without an offer for them to be at the table and put forward what they think may work. They know what's not going to work. Obviously, it fell apart. There's no question about that. At the end of mediation, they made a decision. You made a decision. We have to have fire protection. There's no question about any of that. I'm looking to kickstart something new, maybe a new idea here as opposed to where we've been, and looking forward. That's all, really, but included.
Okay, so just so I want to make sure I understand, and you understand the instructions, is that we will not have Windsor Fire Department as a primary responder after October 23rd. That's pretty clear. We have committed funds. We are spending money to create an alternate primary responder. What is, I think, possible is ensuring that the fire department, where this council has invested a lot of time and a lot of money in building a fire service, that we would perhaps call upon their expertise, but not necessarily as a primary responder, but only as a mutual aid liaise, because that is all they've offered. And to suggest that this council or instruct me to go forward and try to change that structure now, I think is, as Councillor Matheson, where I don't often agree, is a little premature. But certainly, I know that from a fire service policy, we would want to establish policies that our fire departments support. All of them, whoever is going to be responding, whether it's mutual aid or whether it's a primary responder. So I'm not against the idea of myself putting an invitation out to them as a mutual aid component, but not as a primary responder. I just want to make that clear so that council doesn't misunderstand what I've been expressing to them lately.
Thank you, CAO. Anything else, MLA Porter?
I guess I would say we have to start somewhere, and if mutual aid is a beginning, so it will have to be. I will stress, however, that I would very much have liked to have seen that happen prior to the 23rd of October coming to, again, I'm about building relationships, not seeing them left behind, and I know that there's a lot of tension between the two sides. I do. I appreciate that more than you probably understand. I really do. Knowing all the people and the parties here at the table. Having said that, it is vitally important that this relationship begin to rebuild, because as you all have heard me say before, we will be much stronger as one unit in the not too distant future. In my humble opinion, we will be working toward becoming one unit. And if the relationships are still broken down the road, or we're not on our way to creating something better, it will be a challenge yet again. And I guess I see this as the beginning of something as we continue to move forward. The bigger piece here being, of course, becoming one unit, whatever that might mean. And I don't know what that word is. We talk about amalgamation or regionalization. I don't care what you call it. But again, we will at some point become one unit, because we need to be, for the benefit of everyone that lives in this area. And I'm sure some of you have thought about that as well, and down the road. I mean, you just went through it with Hants, so I know the challenges that you had there, and are open to at the same time. But I guess I was certainly looking for something more positive by way of that primary piece, but I guess I'll have to say I'll have to take what I can get at this table, and I'll continue to work as able to help in any way, because that's really my position on behalf of the residents that I represent. And I represent all the same residents that you do, and more, as you know. Thank you.
Thank you, MLA. And like you say, we all look after the same residents. And when we received the letter that service would cease on October 23rd, mutual aid still in there with Windsor, as our fire departments, if anything happened in Windsor, will be there for them. They'll all still be together. But we did adopt the mediator's report unanimously, and it went to the Windsor Fire Department, and what we got back, we didn't expect. So anyway, like you say, there's always another day, but the train's left the station now. We've moved ahead because we had to. We had no choice. We couldn't wait until October 23rd, and have no protection. But I thank you for coming in this evening and taking the time. I hope you will do the same to the other council involved and the Windsor Fire Department. And in the future, maybe things will get better. And just one last statement. I don't do Facebook, but people come to me, but one person cannot make this happen on their own. And so I'd like to think that I was that important, but I didn't do this. So thank you. And good luck at your next meeting. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the report of the warden, and I just have a verbal report. I've had, as you know, the fire department situation has taken a lot of time. Developers have taken a lot of time. Contrary to popular belief, there is a lot happening in West Hants. It's growing fast, and with the approval of the Minister of Environment, just lately, they can't keep up with the building permits that are going out of here. So that's good news. If you look over here at the New Paddy's Pub, if you go up the hill and look at Cybrex, you go Bryson Developments, it's just continuous. So there is a lot going on here that's not going on in other places. I have met with the Minister of Health, Minister of Environment, and Minister of Transportation since our last meeting, and they've all been good meetings for our area, and had contact with Minister of Municipal Affairs over the fire service, and had a real good conversation with him, and I know that his next call was the Windsor Fire Department, and we got a response back on our direction, so that seems pretty clear now. I have had some issues in my own family, but that's why I said about the phone here, and I might have to leave. There's not going to be good news in the near future there. So anyway, that's all I have to report, but anytime you want to talk to me, please call me, or I'll meet you at the office or wherever. Anyway, thank you very much.
Do you want that oral report received?
Yes, please.
I will so move that your oral report be received.
Moved by Councillor Matheson. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Are there any questions for me at this time? You probably saw things that I was doing that I didn't even realize I was doing. So,
I would be very curious, Mr. Warden, to know what those meetings were about, but I suppose you're going to tell me that you can't talk about it. Especially when you talk about the good things that are coming to West Hants, and the ministers were very positive. So is there anything you can reveal to us at this time?
Forest Lakes and even the Minister of Transportation, when I met with him, wants to have another tour. He wants to go back in there. And Environment just passed the minister just signed off on the environmental disposal systems, water systems, and everything. So now they can the permits can be let, and they are let, and they're trying to get a lot of homes up before the snow falls, so they can work through the winter on those. One has to do with the board that I was on that took two ministers to clear up because we needed a piece of land, and that's Deputy Warden Cochran was at that meeting. I would say that was a done deal, and the news, I'll let the ministers come out with the news on that shortly, and it will be good for, actually, tax-wise, the town of Windsor. I negotiated for the town of Windsor because it is in the town of Windsor, but we have representatives on that board. So,
so with the Forest Lakes, is there any chance that the Minister of Transportation is looking favorably at the interchange?
Very.
Good.
Yeah, that's why he wants to meet. I was there a week ago last Thursday, and could not believe the amount of infrastructure that's been built since the last time that I was there. The greeting center, you've all been there. I think there's going to be another event held there in October that we'll all be invited to. I was with the owner and said that it's time for council to have another tour. The boathouse is up, a beautiful dock. I'd certainly like to have a dock like that at my cottage. I'd just like to have the boathouse for my cottage, actually. But anyway, he's very pleased with the way things are going now. And I told him that our council, it was time for another tour, and he agreed to that. The Premier has toured it. So a lot of good things going on. And Minister of Municipal Affairs, I think you know what that was all about. We just got through talking about that. And the new minister had a chance to talk to him for the first time. Well, talked to him several times now, but seems like a real gentleman, and I think he'll fill the role well. As the previous one did, I was sorry to lose him. Any further questions? If not, did we call for the question on the motion? Or I don't think we did. Call for the question on the motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Reconsideration or rescission of resolutions of which notice has been given on a previous day. There are none. Next is reports of the committees and officers. Committee of the Whole. Excerpts of the Special Council, August 13th, 2015. Deputy Warden Cochran.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, there's a number of motions that came out of that meeting, and the first one I would move that Council approve the closure of the Falmouth Community Trust Reserve, the Newport Trust Reserve, and Somerville Wharf Trust Reserve, moving a total of $2,236.18 cash to the General Capital Bank account, and moving the reserve balance of $15,991.52 to the General Capital Surplus account as of March the 31st, 2015.
I'll second that.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran, second by Councillor Matheson. Any discussion on that motion? Not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Next, Mr. Warden, I move that Council approve the removal of the deposit interest liability, the subdivision liability, and the other liability accounts, moving a total of $2,949.37 cash to the General Capital Bank account, and moving the liability balance of $22,274.11 to the General Capital Surplus account as of March 31st, 2015.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Swicker. Any discussion on that motion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried.
Next, Mr. Warden, I move to approve the movement of $92,818.62 from both the 3 Mile Plains Sewer Operating Reserve and cash accounts to the 3 Mile Plains Sewer Operating and cash accounts to the 3 Mile Plains Sewer General Capital Reserve and General Capital Fund surpluses account as of March the 31st, 2015.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Allen. Discussion on that motion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Next, I move Council approve the movement of $433,918.72 from the landfill tipping fees reserve and cash amounts to the General Capital Fund cash and General Capital Fund surplus accounts as of March 31st, 2015.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran.
I'll second that.
Second by Councillor Matson. Is there any discussion on that motion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Next, I move that Council approve the movement of $50,808.38 from the Falmouth Water Other Reserves to the Falmouth Water Capital Fund surplus account as of March 31st, 2015.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. Is there any discussion on that motion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried.
The final motion from that meeting, Mr. Warden, I move that Council approve the write-down of up to $1,232,809 of the former town of Hants capital asset book value as of March 31st, 2015.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Swicker. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
The next is motions, Mr. Warden, from the meeting of August the 25th. Snow and ice removal tender. I move to accept the tendered prices of Windsor Landscaping for all sections of tender PW 15-44 as shown in the tender summary.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. Discussion on the motion. Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
I move that the municipality of West Hants pay a membership to the Nova Scotia Association of Police Governors for the 2015-16 year.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Daniels. Is there any discussion on that motion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Annapolis Valley Regional Library moved that the municipality of West Hants pay the increased funding to the Annapolis Valley Regional Library in the amount of $46 for the 2013-14 budget year and $46 for the fiscal year of 2014 and 15.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Second by Councillor Pineo. Is there any discussion on that motion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
I move that the municipality of West Hants invite the municipal advisor to host a community forum to provide unbiased information on the opportunities available to the citizens of West Hants regarding municipal reform.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Daniels. Any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, I've been waiting for another crack at this, Mr. Chairman. So
hearing nobody. Councillor Matson.
We've already defeated a motion quite similar to this. And I know it sounds good that we're going out for public information, but we've made it known, in fact in writing, I believe, by motions and in writing to the town of Windsor, that we're not interested in municipal amalgamation. And so we've already done that motion. We've already defeated the motion similar to this. And although it sounds good, you're going out and getting information, I kind of feel like we're being led down the garden path here. And to me, it seems like what we're going to do is we're going to, go with the easy way out. We go and get the information. But the information, who's going to show up at the meeting? The people interested in amalgamation is going to show up at the meeting. And that doesn't mean that's a majority. Because I'm not condemning anybody. That's just the way it usually is. If you have a trails meeting, who shows up? People interested in trails. If you have a meeting to see who you get a new rink, who shows up? People interested in a rink, right? So what we're doing here is we're setting ourselves up because the meeting will be loaded with people that are in favor of amalgamation. And then, of course, we'll come back, well, look, the meeting said that we should be looking at this, we should be doing a study. So here we go. And we've kind of been led down the garden path. So I am, of course, again going to vote against this motion. I know it does sound good, and you're just getting information, but I think we're going down the path that's going to lead us into a place we don't want to be in, a discussion we don't want to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Madison. Deputy Warden Cochran, did you have it?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. I somewhat agree with Councillor Matheson, but I was on the understanding this was to be hosted by councillors, not by the municipality. You can maybe I misunderstand this motion, but it's my understanding it's to be hosted by a councillor or a councillors or a group of councillors, but not the municipality is not to be the sponsoring host.
CAO has her light on, so maybe she can answer that more clearly.
You are correct, Deputy Warden. This was, as I expressed at the last meeting, any councillor can invite the municipal advisor to and hold a community meeting in their area. And as I believe Councillor Daniels was opening it up to other councillors who might be interested in not only attending but in letting their constituents know, it is not a meeting of West Hants Council. It is a councillors' meeting opened up to the public. So I'm looking at the wording of this, and perhaps the wording is a bit off to what the intention was. So, but that was the intent, that Councillor Daniels could hold a meeting if she wanted, and she offered the invitation to other councillors to participate if they wanted. But it was not a meeting of council.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Daniels.
Through you, Mr. Chair. That's how I certainly understood it as well, that I'm going to be hosting this. And hopefully within the first couple weeks of November I'm looking at, and it's going to be open to all of West Hants public, because the reason why I wanted to host this is because I've had many people wanting answers on the differences between dissolution, amalgamation, annexation, and where the municipal advisor had offered to come and talk to us. I thought this was a good opportunity for him to come and talk to the public, so they do get the unbiased information and they can take it away and do what they feel is needed. It at least provides them the information that they're looking for, and I thought it prudent that they do get this information. I certainly cannot make assumptions on who's going to show up at those meetings. They're going to take home the information and they can decide for themselves whether it's something that maybe they should look at in the future, because it is certainly up to the citizens to decide the fate of how their future is. So some people may agree with it, some people may disagree with it, but at least they've had the information. So, like I say, hopefully the first part of November I'll be holding this information center, and I certainly invite all the councillors to join in, and so we all can learn together.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Pinio.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. That was my intent as well. I certainly was planning to attend on the same evening. No sense in duplicating it for the municipal advisor. If we can get him here once to do one public information session, but if that's not possible, maybe there's other councillors who wish to have them in their own community only at one of their community halls, and they can invite him at a separate time. But I certainly wish to take advantage of the same evening that Councillor Daniels is doing it and putting the invitation out to all the residents of my district. And it is just because there are times sitting around this table as a councillor and I get confused about those terms and what they actually mean. I know the CAO has explained it to us, but it would be nice for the public to have it explained to them and give them the opportunity to ask questions for clarification, because they may still not understand exactly what it means, and they might want to delve into it and get more details. And that's my intentions, just to give them information so that they are informed and they can think about it, talk about it in an informed way.
Thank you, Councillor Pinho. I'm not sure who was first, Councillor Matheson or the CAO.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Thank you, Councillor Matheson. I was just going to suggest that perhaps the motion does need to be reworded in such a way that it says the municipality of West Hants supports Councillor Daniels in her invitation extended, as opposed to making, because as I'm reading it, it implies that it's a meeting of council and it's not meant to be, so I'm going to throw that out as a suggestion for maybe a wording change.
So that would be an amendment to the motion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that was my point, that the motion has to be defeated the way it's worded, because I respect Councillor Daniels' wish or desire to hold a meeting. There's absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I really don't have any problem, but that was not my understanding when we left the meeting. Okay, so we do have some confusion, and the motion backs up the way I understood it. Okay, my point is, you just defeat this motion. She doesn't need a motion to have a meeting. Doesn't need a motion at all. She can go and do the meeting and with full support. I mean, you have your moral support, but you don't have to do it in the form of a motion. That was my point when this discussion came up. But in the end, I understood it to be this way. Now, I understand that a lot of people didn't, but my understanding was it to be this way. I think it should be defeated, and then Councillor Daniels can proceed, as is her right. And I would certainly uphold that right to hold a meeting. There's no need of a motion. The motion's redundant.
Well, you can do it one of two ways. You can defeat it or you can amend it. So, it's your choice.
Mr. Warden, could I hear the amendment again?
What I was suggesting is that it says the municipality of West Hants supports Councillor Daniels in her extending an invitation to the municipal advisor to host a community forum.
I would make that a motion of amendment.
Moved by Councillor Pinho. Second by the new guy, Councillor Morton. It's moved and seconded.
So,
is there discussion on the amendment?
So you're supporting, what is the amendment? You're supporting her?
Just extending the invitation to municipal affairs, our municipal advisor to come.
I have to see it in context again. Could you read it again? It's kind of a redundant motion, but I think what I was concerned with is that we supported the concept. What you're saying is you support the invitation, which is a huge difference. Okay.
Any further, Councillor Daniels?
Just out of curiosity, if this motion goes through of support for me, does that enable me to access the municipal website for advertising for this, or do I have to do everything out of pocket on my own?
I would think as a councillor you could use the website. CAO?
Unless there's strong objection, I see no problem with us extending an invitation any different than perhaps some of the other committees that you work on or the other work that you do. If you ask us to put it on and it has a community interest that relates to West Hants and it's tasteful, I would not say no from an administrative perspective, especially if council supported you to extend the invitation.
This amendment just we're supporting Councillor Daniels to put out the invitation. Any of the rest of us can do the same thing. So what goes for one here goes for all. Councillor Daniels' name's just tagged to this the way I read it. Question's been called on the amendment. All those in favor? All right. Those opposed? Motion carried. Unanimous. Now, the motion as amended. Questions been called?
I just want to make a point.
Okay.
Because I don't want Councillor Daniels to be offended. I'm going to vote against the motion because it's redundant.
Okay.
Okay. And not because I don't believe that I'm not voting against her having the thing, but I believe the motion's redundant.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be done.
We'll still come to your meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't think it's redundant because I think having the support of council would probably bring our municipal advisor a little quicker than just if a councillor calls. If every one of us called our municipal advisor every time we wanted to come down to do some little thing, I think after a while he'd be just too busy to respond. So I think with the support of council, I think that motion is very important to be on the books, that our council supports the municipal advisor coming forth and doing this presentation.
And that would work for any one of us.
That would work for any one of us.
Oh, my. Now, this changes the water on the beans.
Councillor Masson, I guess your light's on? Your light's on?
Because what we're saying is that we're supporting it. We're saying we're not supporting the invitation, we're supporting the concept. It's a redundant motion anyway. So, what Councillor Pinney was saying is something different than what the motion was intended to do.
Anyway, thank you, Councillor Masson. We're voting now on the motion, the original motion, as amended. Question's been called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. How many nays? 2. Councillor Masson and Councillor Brown, would you like your nays recorded? Crystal, noted. Thank you. Motion carried. Okay. I wasn't allowed to speak on that because I would be swaying the vote. So I'm not allowed to do that. And everybody was speaking, so I couldn't get out of the chair. But all I want to say is, yes, we talked about amalgamation. We defeated that. And annexation, we defeated that. I'm not sure it was defeated on the books, but we talked about it. And because we don't want our tax base, our densely populated areas, to be absorbed, and our outlying areas have nothing because there'd be no tax base for them, and that could happen. It wouldn't be like it is today. Having sat through dissolution, which I knew nothing about with Hantsport, and Councillor Daniels was with me, I thought that was a very clean and well thought out transition, and Hantsport chose to join us, but we didn't went to it blind, and the government paid for it. The residents didn't pay for it. And how much money was that, CAO?
Are you referring to the transitional money or the cost to go through
the cost to go through the exercise, even if it had failed?
Mr. Laycock, was it about $600,000?
It was in that ballpark, yeah.
In the ballpark, $600,000. So if we went through this on our own, I don't think any of us here wants to take $600,000 of our municipal taxpayers. And we went into this, and we were well informed. Studies done on everything. We might have missed something, but it was a very smooth transition, and we now have Hantsport as they have joined us. They chose to join us. We didn't go and to any meetings of theirs and try to convince them to come our way. We left the door open. So that's how I feel about it. And if a municipal advisor comes in and talks to the people, I would certainly be there and voice my view, because I was lucky enough to go through that transition and see how well it went. Thank you. Okay, I'll turn it back to you, Deputy Warden Cochran.
Yes, sir, Mr. Warden, RCM Musical Ride, which is taking place in the next couple of days. I move that the municipality of the District of West Hants sponsors a reception on September the 9th on behalf of the RCMP Musical Ride event being held on September the 10th.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. Any discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call for the question. Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. I'd encourage everybody to go to the musical ride. It's great.
Excuse me, but could you tell me again the time of the reception tomorrow?
4 to 6. Should be on your iPad. Councillor Pinio has been watching her iPad. Okay. Next one, Deputy Warden Cochran.
Mr. Warden, as you can note under these excerpts, there's an A there. And at this time, because it came from the Committee of the Whole, I would move that Council approve the application of Lawrence Hart to enter into a development agreement to enable a municipal fire substation on 22 Tongue Hill Road, PID 45003878, 45222-957, Garland's Crossing, West Hants.
Did CAO want to speak on that before we voted?
I moved it. Let's have a seconder.
Oh, do we have a seconder? Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran, second by... No, we haven't gone that far yet. What? We didn't vote on it. We didn't vote on it. We didn't even have discussion on it. But anyway, we will vote on it, and then.
Well, I was hoping through you, Mr. Warden, that we'd have an explanation why we had this notation to have it defeated.
Yeah.
So that
that's why I want to go further with this. Okay. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Pinio. Okay. Yeah. That's why planning's here tonight, to explain why.
Actually, Mr. Chair, through you to Council, my explanation to you tonight is that the explanation will be in the staff report that you'll receive on Friday. After the Committee of the Whole meeting on August 25th, the motion that was brought forward to the Committee of the Whole at that time was quite... It was a last-minute thing that we were trying to just get into the timelines for public hearings for a particular process of council, a development agreement. After that time, I was able to discuss extensively with municipal affairs advisors as well as our municipal solicitor, Mr. Peter Rogers, on the best way to proceed with the establishment of a fire substation at 22 Tongue Hill. And Mr. Rogers was quite clear in saying that in light of our timeline of October 23rd at 12 noon, that we could not take the chance of there being a motion or an appeal of a development agreement, which would be a possibility, because that would cause a delay beyond October 23rd. And the municipality, Mr. Rogers said, the time is of the essence, and we need to move into a different procedure that is available to council, and that is an amendment of the municipal planning strategy with a concurrent amendment to the land use bylaw, which would enable council to make the amendments, enable the establishment of a fire station, and it would not be appealable to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board. So once it went through municipal affairs for their approval, then it would be effective.
Thank you, Jeannie. Just rather than not having a seconder, it needed to be explained. So I wanted everybody to know the reason why. We're not going to leave anybody without fire protection. Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Well, okay. All those in favor? Those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Motion defeated. You guys are trying to keep me awake here tonight, but yeah.
And Warden Dalton, if I might add, just certainly at next week's Planning Advisory Committee, there will be a staff report coming to the Planning Advisory Committee that will outline the rationale in terms of the suggested municipal planning strategy amendment and land use bylaw amendment. And I just kind of remind both council and the audience that essentially the municipal planning strategy is your policy document. So you're certainly free to make changes and amendments to that policy document as you see fit. And certainly looking at amending a document to provide for emergency services, especially in a highway commercial zone, is a pretty normal thing to occur with municipalities of this size.
Thank you for all the work you've done going to the province and checking everything out, solicitor, the whole 9 yards. So thank you. And I know you want to stay for the end of the meeting, but anyway, you can leave, and thank you for coming in. Anything else, Deputy Warden?
That's all my motions, Mr. Warden, from the committee of the two committee of the whole meetings.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along to Planning Advisory Committee, Councillor Pinio.
I'm really confused because we had a planning meeting, but I have no report in my documents. So I can't very well move a motion be received, a report be received if it's not included, and I'm not sure exactly what happened. And this evening, the planner passed me a one-sheet document that she said I should inform council about, but this is not the minutes. I thought they were the minutes, but they're not.
I have the minutes here if you'd like them. In hard copy.
They haven't been distributed, obviously.
They have.
They have been?
Yeah.
They didn't come out in this report, though.
I never got a report when I... But anyway, if you'd like the minutes, it wasn't that much.
Could I just ask, Gordon, does everybody else have a copy of them, of the minutes? No, I don't either. So I don't think they've been officially distributed. The package must have got... I'm not sure what happened to the package.
So I'll delay the acceptance of the report until next month. However, there is one part of the minutes that the planner wanted me to do a little clarification, and that was the clarification of the future streets map. And that's the only part of the document that she passed to me tonight. And even at that, I'm not sure that it's very clear, but I'll just read at the PAC meeting of August 20th, the committee discussed the intent of the Future Streets conceptual plan. Since the adoption of this plan by both municipal units in the spring of 2014, planning staff in both the town of Windsor and the municipality of West Hants now have a degree of control as to where future streets are or are not built in the area covered by the plan. All proposed streets must be in general conformity to the Future Streets conceptual plan, which forms part of the subdivision bylaws of both units. This will assist in more cohesive long-term development in the Garlands Crossing area of the county and the adjacent Pheasant Drive, Wentworth Road area of the town. Prior to this, neither municipal unit was able to direct developers as to preferred locations for streets. The Planning Advisory Committee agreed that a joint Border Development Committee meeting is necessary to discuss details such as cost sharing for requiring a developer to oversize infrastructure development charges and collection of taxes. So I will move the receipt of that report, and it will be sent out tomorrow to everybody. But that's all it was, and I don't see that that's any clearer or any more than what we already had about the conceptual plan of the streets at the border area. But that's what she gave me tonight. Now she may have been mistaken and thought she was giving me a copy of the minutes. I'm not sure. But
moved by Councillor Pinio. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Daniels.
It's just an information document.
It's just for information. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. If I could, I was directed to get a joint border committee together, and every date that I have tried, I had one confirmed, and that would have been tomorrow, I think. And, I was let know that there was Windsor could not make it. So then gave 3 more dates to give them a choice, and I was told that no Windsor councillors could make it. What was the latest one, CAO? They can't make it until...
sometime in November.
And it's not all of council. It's only a few. And, we would... I was asked why we wanted this meeting. We wanted to try to talk with the town of Windsor, us, and the developer involved. And I don't care if the developer is Santa Claus. It's how, if there's a formula that could be laid out. If we want, the developer has to put in certain pipes anyway. Is there a formula that could be worked out on our behalf, the town's behalf, and the developer's behalf if we want something oversized or something different? And that's all. That was relayed from our CAO to the CAO for the town of Windsor. But anyway, we're having a hard time getting the meeting together, and their hearing, shutting down the street, is September 22nd, our Committee of the Whole meeting night, so we couldn't even be there. So anyway, well, thank you.
So, Mr. Warden, according to this document, Windsor has accepted, they've adopted this plan. So I'm not sure what the problem is. If we both adopted the plan, you just want to meet to see how we could get the plan in place? And
how we can make it work. The way it is now, unless somebody sells some land, a large parcel of land that they've been, there's no breaking through to Windsor. That has to open up first, and that might never happen. Everything's been blocked off. So anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens. And I just want the only thing I want to make clear is I've tried hard, and the CAO has tried hard to make this happen, to have this meeting. And in November, I guess maybe we'll have it. CAO, did you have any response?
I just, through you, Warden, to Council, just, in my email conversation with CAO Catino, he was quite confident that having a meeting to talk about cost sharing on any issue that pertained around the boundary would be a good way to go. And I'm really not sure why we've not been able to get a meeting date set, but we'll continue to work towards finding a time when our representatives on that committee and theirs can get together.
Thank you. CAO.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councillor Daniels. It's on now.
Since past Councillor Soinerer was part of that joint borders, will we have to choose a new?
Yes. Well.
And when will that happen?
Well, tonight we're going to deal with the election, but we'll have to put somebody in anyway, and that would be nominations. And I'm not sure whether we want to do that tonight or what our plan is.
Technically, the municipal clerk won't be coming forward with a recommendation on the election piece until the Committee of the Whole on the 22nd.
Okay, so we will be dealing with it, and it'll be open for nominations. Okay, anything else from planning, Councillor Pinio? Thank you.
No, I don't believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the report of the Chief Administrative Officer. Turned over to our CAO.
Thank you, Warden, members of Council. I'm going to ask Rhonda to go through. We were before you a few weeks ago asking you to agree, which you did, to write to the province in support of a plebiscite for the dry areas in Falmouth. And they have come back thanking us, but now they would like you to consider having the plebiscite open up to all of West Hants. I'll let Rhonda give you more details if there's more.
Well, that's all right. Thank you, through you, Mr. Warden. So I believe when we first discussed the wet-dry plebiscite to be held, roughly areas 8 would be polling districts 8A and District 9. We had thought at that time to not do the remainder of the other dry areas within the municipality because the province is coming forth to remove all dry areas across Nova Scotia. Elections Nova Scotia Representative Dana Doran, which spoke with me, suggested that we could do all the area now, and that way it would prevent anyone who else that wanted to create a similar business within the time frame before the province actually removes all dry areas it'll allow them to go forward with their business rather than wait another year and a half or 2 years before the province removes all theirs. So.
Thank you, Rhonda. Could I have a motion to receive this memorandum?
Move the memorandum be received and placed on file.
Moved by Councillor Pinio. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Daniels. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. What's your wishes?
Through you, Mr. Warden, I believe that this would be at the cost of the province. There would be no cost to the municipality, even if we did the entire municipality.
Correct. It's actually at the cost of the Alcohol and Gaming Commission.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mr. Chairman, the problem with this is you can't have a county-wide plebiscite because some areas are already dry. So you're going to pick and choose the areas? It's going to be kind of spotty, is it not?
That would be up to Elections Nova Scotia. I believe they would work with me and with the Alcohol and Gaming to find out where those dry areas are. And I'd have to confer with him whether he was thinking county-wide or just in those dry areas. He didn't really specify. He just said for all dry areas. So I would assume that he would work with the two of us to find out where those areas are and what polling areas they would have to be covered in.
Just playing the devil's advocate, because this can get tricky if people oppose, is if you go county-wide, the people that want to vote dry, that want to stay dry, can argue, well, look, that area already went wet, and the deck is stacked because they have already voted wet. So you'd almost have to go just to the dry areas to make it. Do you see what I'm saying? That argument could be used.
I see exactly what you're saying. I would think that just the dry areas it's just to clean it up and make it a level playing field. But Rhonda will be back to us with that information. They're just looking for our okay tonight to move ahead. That's my understanding.
If I could, Warden, it actually says in the report for all dry areas within the boundaries, so it's not going to be a... Okay.
Okay. Okay. We received the report. Anybody ready to make a motion? Is there a motion recommended?
Through you, Mr. Warden, I move the recommendation that's put forth.
There is a recommendation. Page 3.
I move that recommendation. Everybody has a copy of it, I believe.
Yes. Okay, moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. The motion is on the screen. Can everybody see that? Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, next is Special Election District 8, final report. First of all, could I have the report received and placed on file? Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Daniels. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Who's speaking on this one? Rhonda again.
Thank you, Warden Daphne. Basically, you've all seen the results. Mr. Paul Morton has been elected as councillor for District 8. We were significantly under budget, and I don't have the exact details. I'm still waiting for a couple of potential invoices from the province to come in, but we were roughly 2,000 or maybe a little less under our estimated budget, so that'll help with our budgeting for our next special election. There was only a 26.7% turnout in voters, so I'm hoping we can find a way somehow to increase that turnout for the next special election and especially for the general elections next fall.
Thank you. I have one question. When the printing place, Eddie Martin's printing, went down, closed, we bought election boxes. Did we use those? They're here in the building somewhere. So our previous CAO bought them. Because
I was not aware we had any, so we did buy new ones. and those ones are in a holding pattern right now. So we have a couple of extras that will be used for the next election, and they're roughly about $15 a box. So, and I don't think they'll be reused. They're not reusable in my opinion. So
no. Well, these were all new, and they were left when he closed out, so we bought them. So they're here in the building somewhere. I just thought about that. So thank you. Councillor Daniels?
Through you, Mr. Warden, in regards to the complaint that happened during, sorry, I lost my page here. With the returning officer, do you have a rough timeline how long it would take to do an internal review?
Yes, through you, Warden, to the council. I've received some documentation and information that I'll start to look at. I'll probably have something back by next council meeting in August. In October. As well, I wanted to just identify that the budget you set for this was about $10,000, and we spent just over $8,800, I think. So you'll see that in the submission that the municipal clerk will be bringing in for committee of the whole. I think she's going to stick to the actual as opposed to ask for additional funding for the budget.
Thank you. Anything further on that? Anything further from the CAO? Okay. Davison Lake Watershed Advisory Committee, Falmouth Watershed.
Thank you, Warden. This is to identify and request that council appoint members to the Davison Lake Watershed and another councillor to the Falmouth Watershed Committee. With the resignation of Councillor Campbell, that left 2 vacancies, so we're looking for you as council to appoint members to the committee.
2? You want 2?
Well, that's not my choice.
I would nominate...
could we...
We need a member for each committee.
Yeah.
One for each.
One for each.
Before we do that, could I have a motion to receive the report?
Move the report be received and placed on file.
Moved by Councillor Piniel. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Daniels. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Open for nominations for the Davison Lake Committee, Advisory Committee. Councillor Campbell was on it. That's a vacancy that we're trying to fill.
If I may, Warden Daphne, I believe Councillor Zwicker and the former Councillor Swinemer were on that.
Yeah.
I would nominate Councillor Zwicker.
He's already on it.
I thought you said he wasn't. Are you on that?
I believe I am.
Okay. I'll nominate Councillor Morton.
Okay.
Second.
We have one nomination, Councillor Morton. Do we have any further nominations? For the second time, do we have any further nominations? For the third and final time, do we have any further nominations? Councillor Morton, are you willing to accept that? Yes. Thank you. Congratulations. You have it. Okay. Next one is for the Falmouth Watershed Committee, and we need one for that.
I nominate Councillor Morton.
Councillor Morton, do you have face mask and snorkel? We have one nomination, Councillor Morton. Do we have any further nominations?
I nominate Pinion.
She's already on it, so it doesn't work that way. Good thing this was your first meeting. Are there any further nominations? For the third and final time, are there any further nominations? No, you're willing to accept that one, Councillor Morton? Thank you.
I'm I'm not sure what the status is, but we are in very preliminary discussions on combining those two committees, hopefully in the future.
Yeah.
But we are still lacking one for the Falmouth Watershed Committee because both Councillor Swinemer and Councillor Campbell were members of that committee. So even with Councillor Morton taking on one position, we're still down one on that.
Well, we probably should wait for the election.
And also, if we happen to be fortunate enough to combine the two committees, then we probably would have enough representation at that time.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
So, could I have a motion for nominations to cease on these appointments? Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Piniel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So you can pick up your face mask and snorkel on the way out the door. Next is Riverbank Cemetery, Hantsport. And could I have a motion to receive that correspondence or memorandum?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Daniels. Councillor Penny, are you going to second that? Yeah, I thought that's why your light was on. Second by Councillor Peniel. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. So
I just want to do a short introduction before Kathy speaks. With the inclusion of Hantsport in the boundaries of West Hants, we've become the proud owner of the cemetery. So Kathy is now responsible from everything from the cradle to grave, and she's here to present an interesting part of the cemetery bylaw to you.
Probably Councillor Allen will try to hire her on after this meeting, but I'll turn it over to you, Kathy.
Sure. Okay. So.
You're on.
Well, I thought I just pushed another button. We've received a request from Vivian Ettinger to transfer 2 cemetery plots to Bev and Myrna Buchanan. And under the Town of Hantsport Riverview Cemetery bylaw, this requires the approval of council. And we are recommending that council approve this request by Mrs. Ettinger to transfer her 2 plots to Bev and Myrna Buchanan.
Thank you, Kathy. Is anybody prepared to make that motion?
Through you, Mr. Warden. I recommend the council approve the request of Mrs. Vivian Ettinger to transfer her 2 cemetery plots to Bev and Myrna Buchanan.
Moved by Councillor Swicker. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Morton. Discussion on the motion? Not? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Anything else from you? Next one? Okay, we have another memorandum, and it's Parks and Open Space. And could I have a motion to receive that memorandum?
Move that memorandum be received.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Masson, second by Councillor Daniels. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. You're on again, Kathy.
Okay. The municipality owns approximately 108 parcels of land, and this includes the community of Hantsport. Currently, there is no clear plan for the majority of the remaining undeveloped lands, of which most were acquired through various parkland dedication and subdivision bylaws. An analysis of these lands and development of the Parks and Open Space Plan is needed to identify opportunities, set priorities, and determine whether the existing parks and open space types meet community needs. And in April 2015, Council authorized staff to proceed with the RFP for the Parks and Open Space Plan in the amount of $35,000. An additional $10,000 has been applied for and approved through the Department of Health and Wellness Planning Assistance, bringing the total available funds to $45,000 for this project. At this time, staff are recommending that Council accept the proposal from Teal Architects, a Halifax consulting company.
Thank you, Kathy. Everybody's heard the report. What's your wishes?
I'd move that recommendation, Mr. Warden.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. It's written out there. We have a seconder. Second by Councillor Brown. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call for the question. Question's been called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. So, I have a question before Kathy leaves. you still recreation director? You look after graveyards or what? Parks and recreation and cemeteries. And anyway, thank you for your report. Feel free to stay until the end of the evening. Okay, thank you. Next is update on tax billing cycle, Hantsport. I would assume, who has that?
Okay, go for it.
Martin, our Director of Finance.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. With the inclusion of Hantsport and West Hants, one of the changes that we had to wrestle with was they were on a 2 billing cycle for taxes and we were on a 1. Our accounting system can't handle doing both. It's either all of us do 1 or all of us do 2. Right now, the second installment for taxes for Hantsport is scheduled to go out on September 25th. And that was part of the reason why we had to delay moving the date over into our financial system. What we are planning on moving forward with is moving Hantsport, the residents of Hantsport, to a 1 tax billing cycle, and we will be assessing the needs in the future of whether a 2 billing cycle is more beneficial to everybody within the West Hants region. It should be noted that for those people within Hantsport or anyone who would prefer to pay their taxes, split their taxes up twice, are more than welcome to pay their taxes at any time in the year. If they want to pay half in April and the other half in September, people can still do that. But as we move forward, just with the ease of the integration of Hantsport, we're going to move to a 1 billing tax cycle for the next year, and we'll be putting an insert in the tax bill that goes out explaining this to the residents of Hantsport.
Thank you, Martin. That's for information. Councillor Swicker.
Yes, through you, Mr. Warden. Would there be any extra cost associated to the municipality to continue with the 2-cycle billing and perhaps run that through the county? I'm just thinking, you make a good point that you can pay taxes at any time, but often people wait to be prompted by letters in the mail. I'm just wondering where there's a large number of seniors in the former town of Hantsport that it could be arduous to them to be. I guess we'd need to, if it couldn't be done twice, we'd need to really work on the information profile of it because, again, with people on fixed incomes and seniors, I think a larger than expected bill would be most unwelcome.
Thank you, Councillor Swicker. Councillor Daniels.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Martin, did I understand that you expressed that the people of West Hants can do a split bill or 2 payments?
People can pay their taxes whenever they want to prepay. That's more than welcome.
So if, let's say, they split 2 payments per year, are they penalized in any way, or there's no interest or anything?
Not if they prepay. So, for example, our tax bill in West Hants, through you, Chair, our tax bills in West Hants go out July 31st. They went on July 31st. If someone had made a payment April 1st, let's say their tax bill was $2,000, and they made a payment on April 1st of $1,000, only $1,000 would have been due September 1st. So it's just that remaining balance. They wouldn't earn interest, but they wouldn't be penalized interest because you prepay your taxes. That's correct. With regard to your question, Councillor, we can do our. The onus will probably be on us to communicate to the residents of Hantsport that just a reminder, that we're not doing the 2 billing cycle. Our system won't allow it, and I think the trick is communication for this sort of things, and just make sure that reminders, hey, if you'd like to make a payment, this is what we could ballpark, or this is what your last year's assessment was. If you made 50% of that, it'll be within the ballpark your upcoming bill, something like that. But it is something we're well aware of, and it's something that I think that we'll explore to payment. As for costs, I think I'm on the other side of this. To me, a one billing cycle is more efficient, although I've heard other arguments from the other side of that. But I know a lot of municipalities and towns, go to two billings, and it does impact cash. I know that. It impacts cash in your first year. So for us, to be quite honest, moving from two cycles for Hantsport into one will impact our cash. It means we'll have less cash from a Hantsport's perspective in that. But I think that's something that we can handle on our end.
Yeah, what I could also offer is that in order to keep to a two-tax billing cycle, we would have to keep the software up and running in Hantsport, and we're going through quite a expensive transition to get everything onto the one system. As Martin said, communication is key. One of the things I think Martin and I can discuss is the option of trying to do a targeted mail-out around the time taxes are usually due to Hantsport residents with, as Martin said, a 50%. This is what your taxes might be, so that if people wanted to pay in advance, they could, and just encourage them that way.
So that's acceptable to you, Councillor Swicker. I apologize, but I thought Jennifer was on the same road as you, and he was going to answer one question. So anyway, it all worked out. Thank you. So that's just an update for information. Next is REMO Advisory Committee.
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Police Advisory Committee.
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. MCAP Committee. Councillor Swinemer was our MCAP chairperson. Who else sat on that committee?
I sat on that committee.
Okay.
Haven't met since you were last asked at the last meeting.
Okay, so there's nothing to report. Thank you. Should we be appointing somebody? Well, I guess we can't until Rhonda comes in, our municipal clerk comes in with recommendations.
Technically, you could, after tonight's meeting, when Rhonda gives you the official notification of Councillor Swinemer's resignation, then technically under Council's rules, it's official. And you could appoint somebody prior to an election if you wish. There's nothing stopping you. It just means you've one less person to choose from.
It doesn't sound like it's been meeting very often, but we have Councillor Masson there, but it's Council's choice what they want to do at the end of the meeting once a resignation is received. So, anyway, we'll move on and decide at the end if you want to appoint somebody tonight, or maybe you'd like to make that decision now, but we can't do it until after we receive the resignation.
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe it would be wise to confer with the planning department about when our next.
Yeah, I don't think there's a panic, and we would know at Committee of the Whole in 2 weeks' time. CAO?
I was just reminded by our executive assistant that Councillor Swinemer sat on a number of committees, so if you're going to be replacing a position, you might want to consider all the committees that need to be replaced rather than one at a time.
So we'll just wait for a report to come in. Everybody okay with that? Thank you. Okay, any other committee reports or recommendations to come before us at this time? If not, I'll move on to correspondence. And first correspondence is August 2015. Marilyn Greenwood, reference fire services. Could I have a motion to receive that correspondence?
I move the...
Yeah.
I'll move that correspondence be received.
Moved by Councillor Masson.
Second.
Second by Councillor Daniels. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Next one is August 21st. Our McLaughlin, reference Highway 101. This is why I'm doing it individually, because there's different stuff. Somebody willing to move that correspondence?
I'll do that again, yeah.
Moved by Councillor Matheson, the correspondence be received. Second by Councillor Allen. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. August 24th, Windsor Elms Village, reference letter to Minister of Municipal Affairs. Motion to receive that.
So moved.
Moved by Deputy Warden Cochran. Second by Councillor Brown. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Next is August 27th, Dawn of Britain, reference fire services. Motion to receive that.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Brown. Seconder. Second by Councillor Daniels. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. August 27th, Malcolm and Barb Gould, reference fire services. Motion to receive it. Correspondence.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Allen. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Morton. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Next one is August 28th, Timothy Reed, reference fire services.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Brown. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Pinio. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. August 30th, Margaret and Laurie Johnson, reference fire services. Motion moved by Councillor Schwicker. Second by Councillor Morton. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. August 30th, Tony and George Heatley, reference fire services. Motion to receive that. Moved by Councillor Schwicker. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Morton. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. August 31st, Francis Oliver, reference fire services. Motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Daniels. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. August 31st, Wendy Geddes, fire services. Motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Morton. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Allen. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. August 31st, Timothy Reed, reference fire services.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Brown. Second by Councillor Morton. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. August 31st, Victor Swanmer, resignation. Motion to receive that.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Brown. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Schwicker. Question's been called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. September 3rd, UNSM, reference 2015 UNSM Annual Conference. And I think the CAO, first, could I have a motion to receive that correspondence?
Would the correspondence be received and placed on file?
Moved by Councillor Pinio. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. I think what we're looking for tonight is anybody that's interested in going to that, would they let the office know, the CAO or Crystal? And anyway, they'll do the bookings as quick as, you know how it works. The instant it opens up, it's full. But anyway, so we received that. That's looked after. Next, that's the end of the correspondence. We'll move on to miscellaneous or new business. First one is Fly Pass, Community of Hantsport, and the CAO has that one.
Thank you, Warden, members of council. We received correspondence. Kathy Keogh received some correspondence with a request from CFB Greenwood from Captain Tim Carey requesting approval for the a fly past over the community of Hantsport and the, let's make sure I've got my, that would be big airplanes, September 26th or September 27th. It's for low-level flyby of military aircraft within our boundaries over the Freddie Wilson Overpass. It's for an event called Boomer's Legacy Ride. And I wasn't aware of what it was. I've never had to deal with this. I'm not sure if you as council has ever had to deal with this, but according to Captain Carey, they require your permission for them to fly by over our airspace. So I want to read to you what this is about, though, so that you have as clear of understanding as I do. Okay. So, sorry, I lost my paper.
Is there any way we can have that flyby on the 23rd instead of the 26th? Then we could have our official Hantsport Library opening that day and have a flyover at the same time.
Well, 14 Wing Greenwood is responsible for that, and this is called the Boomers Legacy Event. This is in memory of medic Corporal Andrew Boomer Ekenlemboom, who, at the age of 23, was killed in Afghanistan from a suicide bomber. He was the first medic to be killed since the Korean War in the line of duty, and he was killed on his last day of duty in Afghanistan. His mother and father have set up a fund called Boomer's Legacy Fund, and the fund is used to is given to soldiers who were originally in Afghanistan, but now soldiers who are off on any mission. It's money for them so that they can provide needed supplies to residents that they're in the country. For example, shoes for young children, water for pumps for wells, and it's done in their son's memory. And this is done every year. And this year, CFB Greenwood has chosen our area for the flyby. It's a tough thing for a family who's lost a child, and what his mother has said is that I know that this is what my son would have wanted. Helping our soldiers help others is our mission, and it's what we will always do no matter where we are deployed. So normally they do something on Remembrance Day, but at this time they wanted to do something early, and they need your permission.
Okay, first of all, could we receive the correspondence?
The correspondence be received.
Moved by Councillor Matheson. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Brown. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. If they need our permission, is somebody prepared to make that motion?
I would move that we grant permission. For the
Moved by Councillor Matheson. Do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Swicker. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Unanimous. Okay. I didn't ask if there was any discussion on that because I knew that was going to be unanimous. How could you turn that one down? Next is PR and Councillor Matheson.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I brought this up. I was going to bring it up the other day, but the CAO did such a good job of getting a point across that I thought it would be better to let things people digest what was coming at them. But I found, and as you know, I found our handling of this to be completely bizarre. I believe we're doing and we've acted in the correct way. We haven't articulated that to the people. There are people that are really angry at us, and they have every right to be. Because we didn't tell them. We didn't tell them our rationale. So why wouldn't they? We have a responsibility as elected officials, and we failed in that. Okay, now, one of the letters referred to us as arrogant. I wouldn't call anyone around this table arrogant. But how else would you describe it? We didn't tell them why we were doing it. Okay, they have a right to know, and we have an obligation to tell them. And as you know, I've had this conversation with you, I bet you, for 3 years, right? Now, having said that, I got up here one night, I think it was 2 years ago, and explained why I felt why we were proceeding in the direction that we were proceeding, and not a syllable in the paper, nothing. So, but that's not the point. The point is that we have an obligation to let the people know why we're doing things, and they have every right to be just livid at us. I don't blame them for being. I can't get mad at them because I'm saying you're right. We have an obligation to tell you what is going on. Now the mediator's report is out. It's all out. There's no reason to hold things back now. There's no, mediation's going on, this is going on. And I believe that we should through you, and I don't think it all falls on you, but you're the leader, you're the man, I think we should get our message out to the people, and I'd like to make a motion if you would entertain it, because I believe that it's very, very important that people know why we're proceeding in the way we're proceeding, because they don't know, and they have a right to know. So if you would entertain a motion,
I would entertain a motion, but part of it was her solicitor's advice, and we would have to go in camera at the end to say why we didn't let some of it out. Believe me, like I said before, I have one vote. I certainly don't have the power to do what's happened here, even though the gun's pointed at me. And that's the way it is. But to write an article when you think so highly of the volunteers that are doing a good job. This was an administrative thing and not getting the information that we needed. It could have been cleared up, and we thought it would be. And anyway, it turned out not good. We stepped away when we agreed unanimous on mediation, and it went to the mediator. We agreed to put fresh eyes on it. It was unanimous. We stepped back, and we all stepped back. The mediator's report come back, and we agreed. The other side did not agree. They didn't put fresh eyes on it. They left the same people on it. But I think just as highly of all the volunteers today as I did before this ever started. And I know some have been penalized just by talking to me in the grocery store. So I actually just say to them, you probably shouldn't talk to me. You know, you could be penalized. So anyway, it's been a hard road. It's been a hard road for all of us, but it's been a hard road. You lose a lot of friends, but you find out who your friends are too. So I will accept a motion, but there's probably some things in there that we can't do until we go to arbitration. So I'll just leave that with you.
Well, we certainly can do the stuff that's out there in the press release. Do anything that's out there in that.
Even the mediator's report, I found out a gentleman called me, and I said, it's public. The mediator's report's public because the Minister of Municipal Affairs made it public, but it's not public here. They can't come in and pick it up at the counter. I found that out this morning because I said, I'll put it in a package for you. I can give it to them. I'm allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. But office staff is not allowed to give the mediator's report out. Our press release is allowed to go out. So that was given out. Now, I've called that gentleman because he came in and got turned away, and because I didn't know that part of it. I thought it was public. They could just walk up to the counter and get it. But once a minister said it was okay. But that's not right. So, but I have copies printed off, and I just hand them to people now if they want them, so they can see the mediator's report. CAO's going to kick me in a minute, so I'm going to let her speak.
All I want to do is clarify two things. First of all, there are things that occur in mediation that, based on the parties' agreement, are kept private. And I will not be releasing or revealing any of that information. If it is released through other means, as long as it's not by the administration, I can't control that. As far as the mediator's report, yes, I've directed staff not to release that because I made a promise that I would not release it unless all parties agreed. The fact that it's been released is out of my hands. If you as councillors wish to share that report, you're doing it on your own, individually. As to what is the message that you'd like to get out, Councillor, I'm not sure, but if we were to have this conversation in camera, I would tell you what you can't say. What you can say is anything that's been publicly released And it's your I don't understand the hesitancy for counselors, individual counselors, to stand up and defend their position, except that there are still so many things that are outstanding that we have to discuss through and go through in the arbitration piece, and that makes it a little more difficult because I suspect not everyone understands what should be or could be talked about and what could jeopardize our position in arbitration. So it is a bit of a bit of a difficulty, but certainly you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to express that opinion, and based on the facts that you have, you're entitled to tell people that. I would never suggest that you weren't. It's that from an administrative perspective and to protect the interests of the municipality that I will not speak about certain things, and until everything's finished under that interim agreement, the arbitration, my hands are kind of tied.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I do want to say that I don't expect, of course, the CAO to break any code of conduct. In fact, this is really not her issue. It's our issue because it's our actions that were defended, not her. She's, of course, when people ask her why she's doing something, it's because I have a motion. I have a direction from council. And if they ask her, well, why did council make the decision, I suspect her answer would be ask them, right? And that's the issue here, is that we should be telling the people. And I don't think there's anything that I have heard in camera that I know that can't be spoken of, that I want made public. It doesn't need to be done to get our message across. We have there's enough out there to put together that we can explain to the people, look, here's how we got there. Here's how we got here, and here's why we got there. And we don't have to be mean about it. We just have to be factual, and sometimes the facts aren't pretty, but we just have to be factual about it, right? And that's all I'm asking, and I certainly wouldn't want CAO to, I'm not saying, look, tell us everything, and no, I never even thought of that. That never entered my mind. This is our thing, and I really believe the people have a right to know. And if you would entertain the motion, maybe it will be defeated. Maybe people will say, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, I understand mediation and arbitration. I understand that most times you go in and you sign a confidentiality clause. It can be used against you if you leak out the information. I don't know if that was done in this case or just everybody gave their word. And through the whole thing over a year, I never went to the CAO and said, what's going on in mediation? You know, I did say, boy, it's taken a long time. I thought this would be over with in 3 months or 2 months or whatever, but that's all. Stayed away from it, as everybody else did. CAO said nobody else tried to come in and pry either, so it's all good. So it's entirely up to you whether you want to make...
I will. I'll move that the warden use whatever resources that he feels necessary to explain our rationale to the public as to how and why we got to this point with the Windsor Fire Department by putting an article in the Halifax Herald, sending out this rationale in a mass mail to our residents, and any other instrument that he determines to be effective in accomplishing that purpose.
Moved by Councillor Matheson. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that. Second
by Deputy Warden Cochrane. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Pinion.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to start. I agree to a degree. I agree what Councillors Matheson and Cochrane have voted to do. I guess I would want, you're asking the warden to do it, but I think maybe you should be doing it. I mean, you know, in concert with him. But you know what you want the message to be. I think, Councillor Matheson, maybe you should do the framework and perhaps come in and with the warden, because maybe then the CAO could have some input as to if there's anything in it that shouldn't be publicly released. But I agree. There are facts. In fact, I'm to the point now where I don't even know what I'm supposed to say or not say anymore. So I'm very cautious on what I do say. But I would like to see all of the information come out that is allowed to be coming out. And I think that you're right. It needs to be done. I disagree with the warden that with the mediation that councillors weren't aggravating the CAO, because I was. I kept asking her, I think every time I saw her, well, how's, no comment. When I have something to tell you, I'll tell you. And that was the answer I got month after month. So after a while, I stopped asking. And but we didn't know what was going on. And in a way, even the night we voted on everything we voted on, most of those votes, we received documentation in camera. We voted onto it. We came out of in camera. We didn't even have the documents to take home and continue reading. So some of the facts that we have in our brain might not be the correct facts, and I would like to see the whole story revealed. I really would. So I'll be supporting the motion, but I think, Councillor Matheson, you probably have an idea in your mind as to how you want it to flow. So I think you should be helping the warden write that document so that you aren't just asking him to do it, and it may come out and it's not something that you actually want to see. It's not the way you want to see it.
If I could just read the first part of the motion again. I move that the warden use whatever resources that he feels necessary. And I'm thinking of the CAO to run a fire, to run, look, do you think we said anything here that shouldn't be said? Was that said in confidence? Does that break any rules? So I put that, just wanted to read that part of the motion to you.
Actually, if this motion passes, I'll be calling on a few of you because, what's nice is if you meet somebody on the street and you can talk to them one-on-one, you can explain it. But I don't want to put something out there that makes it look like I'm downing volunteers. I've always said try to take the high road, and Councillor Matheson said they're digging a ditch under you while you're on the high road. But anyway, and I don't like to sell newspapers. So I would like to, whatever council's wishes are, I'll be calling on whoever I need to do this, especially the CAO and our media person, to make this right. But the story, Councillor Matheson is right. People have been kept in the dark, and if we did have to go in camera and deal with our solicitor, so it'd be good to get the story out. But it's been a rough past 3 years for sure. Anyway, Councillor Daniels and then the CAO.
The CAO first.
Okay.
I am very hesitant. There is a fine line that as politicians you cross when you're using or suggesting that you use municipal resources to get your individual message across. I am a bit uncomfortable because the PR person, the solicitor, work for the municipality, not for councillors individually. I'm not sure about this motion and how it can be supported by municipal resources. I'm going to have to go for advice because what I hear from councillors is your individual story is what you want out, which is different than the municipality presenting a position. So I'm not sure where this will go. I certainly have no problem providing advice on something you might write or release, but right now I'm not comfortable that municipal resources can be used depending on what you're trying to put out. So it's all about the language and what you're trying to do. If you're trying, and that is where it's very gray for me because I'm not sure what message you're trying to get out. We have put out on behalf of the municipality the facts from the mediation piece forward that I've been involved in. If you're looking to speak to what happened before that, that is something a little different. And we will need to get advice before I would suggest we move on any motion you pass here. So just a word of caution that I'm not comfortable unless I understand the language and the purpose behind it is for municipal purposes as opposed to individual councillor purposes. So I just caution you.
Councillor Daniels.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I agree with the CAO. As councillors, we're approachable by the public. If the public wants to hear our side of it, they can certainly contact us. And there's a variety of different ways that they can contact us. I think the staff has done a diligent job getting the consistent message out, and we have taken the high road in that respect. I certainly will not be supporting that motion because it's like I say, the staff has done diligence. Quite honestly, as far as I'm concerned, that mediator's report has said it all. It's up to the individual to source out the information, which is certainly available from all parties and is quite self-explanatory. So, again, I certainly won't support that motion.
We're allowed to give the mediator's report out as councillors. It just can't come from the counter. Who was next? Deputy Warden Cochran?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, I am going to support the motion. I kind of sense that Councillor Math is grasping for straws to try and get the right information out there. And I think this is a problem that we're faced with these days now with this ugliest reflection of mankind that we have now, the social media, who will put stuff out there that is usually, in a lot of cases, is misinformation or swaying information. They usually hide behind a fictitious name as well, but some of them you can figure it out. And well, we've even had a case that they threatened to burn some of our houses down. I was actually just able to source it out.
Hold it.
Got the RCMP involved.
Point of order from the audience.
Got the RCMP involved, and they went over, and the guy said, "Oh, I was just joking." So this is what you have to live with, and unfortunately, we do make decisions, but the people out there when you do get a phone call from an individual and explain it to them, they say, "Well, why don't you get that message to us?" Because they're reading this, what I call garbage that gets out there that sort of undermines us. So unfortunately, and like I say, I will support his motion. It is a tough way to get it out there. How are you going to get it out there? But it's still going to be knocked down. But unfortunately, we have to make some attempt, because the people are asking us, tell us what's actually going on, but tell us the truth. Councillor
Madison, thank you, Deputy Warden.
I do, and I think the CAO has made an excellent point. Okay, I have no problem with the point. The point that she made, however, was that what individual councillors want. That's why it's coming from you. Okay, I can and will make my point. It might not be exactly the same as yours, and that's why I say, like when Councillor Pinio said, I think she just accidentally thought that I was saying that I want my message out. I want our message out, because I think we have done this in concert. It's a unanimous choice at this point. And no, it's not my message. It's the council message that I'm trying to. This is what the impression. That's why it's coming from you. I can make comments and have and will. Okay, but that's Randy Matheson. I will wear that. But if it comes from you, you're putting the council position on it, right? I suspect if you write it up, you will probably check with people. Do you feel comfortable with this? Is this where we stand? And that's what I'm trying to make. I would not want it to be my position alone, because mine may vary slightly with what is the consensus. So I think it's very, very important that we address what she says and make sure it is a council document. And that's why I say move the word, use whatever resources that are necessary. And I think it is a council position. This is our position as to why we did this. And I think it's she gave me some hesitation, but I still think we're on solid ground.
Thank you. CAO, you want to speak again?
Just on the process of developing a message from council. Council can only technically approve things when they're sitting as council. So for the warden to go off and draft something and then circulate it to council for approval, I don't know if you can't. I think you may have to come back in as a council and approve that message if it's for council.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. There was a motion passed here one time before that I could go out and hire a media person before we had one, and I didn't do that. I put a bit of a message out, but I hate to say this, press is in the room. One press is left, but my experience with the press, if they were standing on a stack of Bibles and promised they'd print it the way I said it, we have to pay to put it in, or it's not going in. They do cut and paste. I can talk for an hour and a half or 2 hours and get 10 seconds on TV, 20 seconds, and you wouldn't even know it was the same interview. So, frustrated, and you're putting it in my hands. I will work with everybody. I'll bring it back here. But the one thing I will say, in the next short period of time, I hope short period of time, I will not be available to do this. So, and some of you know why. Yeah. So, anyway, I'm going to go through a hard time for a period of time, and I've been going through a hard time, and it's to do with family. It's nothing to do with council, and family has to come first in this case. So,
no. So I respect that, and I think the CAO brought the point. Let's bring it back here, and if we feel that that's a message we want to get out, we waited this long. Right?
Yeah.
If that's the message we want to get out, then we will all agree on it, and if not, then so be it. Maybe we can't come up with something that we all agree on. Maybe we are seeing things differently. Right?
Okay.
That could very well be. Maybe my perception of what happened is a little different than the councillor across the way's perception, so on down the line. So I think I have no problem with that at all. I think that's a very good suggestion of the CAO.
So
and I think I respect that, Mr. Chairman. That doesn't have to be done tomorrow, and we know that. We know your situation.
Okay, thank you. So the direction to me, if this passes, is that I can use to come out with a message, use you people for resources or whatever is legally allowable to me. The CAO saying is their budget. I don't charge anything. So.
Well, I mean, if there's a mass mail out, there's got to be a budget. And,
yeah. Well,
I don't know what it would be.
Well, that
I was going to put it in the motion, but I chose not to.
Well, it has to come back here anyway, so we'll decide. Maybe at the end of the day, it won't even happen. But
I know if you remember, there was a meeting at the Legion a couple of years ago where the Windsor Fire Department did a dog and pony show, and that did not come cheap. I understand, and that's the type of thing we're fighting. And a lot of the misinformation is still out there. The insurance thing, I was surprised it's still out there when a couple of weeks ago in the Halifax Herald, on the finance part of the paper, finance section on Wednesday, it was written about West Hants, and no, insurance that doesn't mean anything. What's going on in the fire department? It's completely meaningless. But that's still out there. That insurance thing is going to be a problem. And of course, Councillor Penio addressed that. And we've got to there's a bit of hysteria out there among people, and we've got to knock some of that down.
I had the misfortune of not being able to be at the Legion or the Falmouth Hall, the meetings. I was off at that time with my heart attack. So anyway, you people know more about that than I did, what was said those nights. So, Councillor Swicker?
Through you very briefly, Mr. Warden, I agree with Councillor Daniels. I think staff has done an excellent job of informing the public. I think if you're trying to chase down the social media and end up on the side of right, that's a path that's never going to be successful, so I will not be supporting the motion.
I've never had a lot of success with the media anyway, but anyway, is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Would you raise your hands, please? Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, I will do my best, and it'll have to come back here, and who knows, it might not go anywhere anyway.
May I have my name on record for that?
Sure. Who are the ones that voted against it, and do you want your name on record? Councillor Swicker, Councillor Morton, Councillor Daniels. Who else? That was it? Okay. Those names will be on record, Crystal. Thank you. Okay. But I'll do my best, and it'll have to come back here, and everybody will, the majority will have to agree. Okay. If there's nothing else on the agenda, the date of our next regular meeting is the 13th of October at 7 p.m. And if there's no further business, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Moved by Councillor Pinio, second by Councillor Morton. All those in favor? There is just before we adjourn, there is a special council meeting on September 22nd. In lieu of Committee of the Whole. So is that at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock? 6:30, I believe. There'll be a notice come out. Take part.
There's a PAC meeting on September the 17th, and this is a special council meeting in lieu of Committee of the Whole, because we have to have a public hearing during a council meeting. So it will be your Committee of the Whole meeting will be replaced with a council meeting, because we have other items we need your approval on.
So does that start at 6? Or?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, it's probably 6 o'clock. But I think it's because of the public hearing piece. We agreed we'd start it. We thought we'd start it at 6. We'll send the information out. We still need a public hearing for bylaw change.
So the information will come out.
Has to be counted.
On the time, but September 22nd. Okay. Motion to adjourn has been put on the floor. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, and have a safe trip home. Please check your tires when you go out if you're a councillor. I can give you the hardware that was left in mine after the last meeting, and